Hello guys, good evening. Welcome to this edition in this series. In this edition, let's talk about how to set up SSH on a local machine, ranging from what it is, how to set it up, and how to actually use it to connect to a remote machine. Let's talk about it in details, guys. So let's begin. So the first thing here we want to talk about is obviously SSH, as we know, it's by definition really is a secure shell, and it's simply a just cryptographic network protocol used to secure communication over an unsecure network. So actually, when you're concerned, obviously all the time you should really be concerned, but when you're concerned that both ends of the machine, so basically when you have one machine trying to access resource on the second machine, and you're really concerned about the network in between them, it is when you use SSH to connect in between them. And what SSH does is to like encrypt that connection there. So basically he's saying here that if I just grab if I just grab this highlighter here, let's use this pen. So here it says it enables user to remotely access and manage computers and servers, transfer files, execute commands in a secure shell manner, basically, so that there's no eavesdropping or like people like straight stealing conversation or like grabbing your data on transit, really. So SSH uses encryption to protect the integrity and confidentiality of the data being transmitted between the clients and server. Basically, that's what it is. It is commonly used by system administrator, developer engineer, software developers, host range of other guys in IT development. SSH was designed as a replacement for insecure protocols like Telnet, R-logging, FTP things, but FTP now has a SFTP, which is secure file transfer protocols. But SSH is really there, and it's not going anywhere anytime soon. So, and which is used to transmit data, including password, plain text, in plain text, making them vulnerable to eavesdropping, as I was saying. And again, this is the one that worried most IT people, which is man-in-the-middle attack. So with SSH, all communications, including commands and file transfers, are encrypted, providing a higher level of security. So moving on. So what are the components of SSH? Well, client is the first one. You got server, you got authentication, you got encryption and ports. So let's talk about it quickly. The client is the machine where you are initiating this communication from. So the machine or device that initiates the connection to the remote server. Typically, it's just a local machine, or probably like a server you're working on, whatever, but wherever you're making the call. And it's the server side is simply the machine that is being accessed remotely. So it runs an SSH daemon, which helps it to kind of listen for this SSH communication, so or SSH request. Now the third component is SSH supports several methods of authentication. That's commonly like through password. Most people don't use this option anymore. There's cryptographic keys, which is where you have SSH key pair, which is the public and private key. This is the one that we'll be dealing with tonight, really showing you how to generate them. This one, people largely use this when they are talking about like connecting to a server that is insecure. So that's what this one is about. Encryption is the SSH encrypt all data sent between the client and the server, including password, commands, and any other data, ensuring that communication is confidential and secure, as we said at the beginning. So that's the whole point of using SSH for benefit of this encryption of transmitted messages. And again, the other thing that we talk about in SSH is the port itself. SSH typically uses port 22 for communication. I mean, you can change it really. This can be configured to other port, as we said, but by default, it runs on port 22 really when you want to connect to a remote resource. So how does this work? Well, I'm going to show you a diagram in a minute, but okay, let's see the diagram and I'll come back and show you. So here is the diagram. A connection gets from client. This is the client as an example. It gets initiated. It goes to the server. Server sends back the public key, because the server, when you create it, you're going to put public key here. This one has private key. This sends a message here, a request for the public key. Public key comes back, matches with this one. The key is decrypted, and see if it is matched. If it is matched, the negotiation happens, and then if it's successful, then the authentication happens. But let's go back to this to see. So how does it work? Client request connection, as we said, the SSH client send a connection request to SSH server using the server IP address, or probably like DNS name and a port number. The server responds, and then the server provides the key to the client. The client uses this public key to verify authentication. As we say, authentication then happens. Actually, if I just go back, this is just going back and forth. Authentication then happens. Again, we said password, but just forget about this now. Most people don't think you should use this, because again, you still need to store this password somewhere, isn't it? So there's a risk there. And then this is the key authentication, the one that is very much in vogue. And then section establish. After successful authentication is secure, encrypted section is established, allowing the client to run commands and transfer files over the server. And then data transmission, which is all further communication such as command execution, file transfer, is encrypted and securely transmitted over. So say for instance, you are doing this transmission, these two systems are connecting, and if somebody intercepts in the middle, he or she would get like a scrambled data. Really, it cannot make a sense of it unless they have the public and private key to decrypt that. But that's the point. So here is another picture, like saying the same thing again. So SSH, the client makes this call. As you can see, this server is secure, obviously, and they just sent it like back and forth, and it encrypts the message. You can see you can't make a sense of this message. This gets in here, gets the decrypted authentication pass, and then agrees on section key, and then encrypted data actually just gets transmitted. Okay, so that's enough about that. How do we install this? Well, I'm going to be showing you different ways. Obviously, you can do that on Windows, Mac, Linux. Most people really just default to like Linux or MacBook, really. But here is how you want to go about it on Windows. The easiest way really is to install like Git Bash on your Windows machine. This Git Bash is just like a command line terminal that will just give you like a Linux-based emulation. So you can just install that, and then just that comes SSH client comes in with it straight away. So once you do Git version, if you have Git version installed, that should be fine. And for Linux, especially Debian and Ubuntu that we do have, first thing to do really is to actually just update your package, and then just install. When you install Git here, that should really give you Git. And then by default, most machines really have SSH client installed by default, so there's really no installation required. I'm talking about Git here because at the end of the day, Git is mostly what everybody used to use, mostly in most cases where you're trying to do authentication is either to clone or something. So I'll be using that as an example. So essentially by default, SSH client is installed. There's also SSH server that needs to be on the server side, but don't worry about that. Both server and client, usually they do have this installed by default. Okay, so let's move on. So for Ubuntu again, for MacBook here, I prefer Brew. There are other ways of it, just get Git there. On a MacBook as well, SSH client is usually on the machine once you get it. Okay, so setup, how do you do it easily? Just pull up your interface. Okay, here are examples how to generate this. I mean, before now, there's something called RSA, but for now, I'm just gonna talk you through how it is done or how you should do it in today's world. This is 2025 really, but so this ED 25519 is recommended because RSA is no more considered as very much secure. So how do you generate SSH? Simply, all you just need to do is, so let's take that's highlighter again, is just to run this command. Also, you can, this is the same command, but you can pass option minus capital C. Uppercase C here means comment. This means comment. And then this comment, usually people put their email address on it, but you can put anything, it doesn't really matter. RSA is the older version if you want to do that, but this one is also backward compatible, so you can actually just do the latest one, and which will be backward compatible to connect to what you want. If you look at this now, this is trying to explain these things. Minus T here is just saying the type, which is, in this case, the type here is RSA. Type in this one is the ED2551. And then minus B, if you want to specify, I mean, you can do that anywhere you like. Minus B as well is the level of encryption that you want. So there's usually in the 1000, there is in the 2000, in like in the bits. So 10, I think 24, 2048, and 30, I think 48. Now I'm losing track, and then 4096. So in this case, this is the 4 is the highest level of encryption. But anyway, just the default one should really work for you, and that's what you should really be concerned about. Right, so this is also the same thing I was talking about a few minutes ago. But note here, obviously, again, if you're using the legacy one, which I don't recommend, this is how you do that. In case you're wondering, this is just the newer type. This one is the legacy one. So this is how you do that. They're all the same thing, but in this one, people really want to choose the level of encryption they want to have on it as well. So let's move on. Right, so once this is installed, what you now need to do is, in this case here, you can see there's somebody called Edwin here. You just want to go to your home directory and just go to, once it's generated, it will generate by default. It goes here. I mean, you can change wherever you want to keep it, but by default, it should stay here. And then you can go to, if there's no file called config, just create a file called config and customize that. I'll show you the configs that you can have. Here is a typical config you can have in a specific file here. Sorry, I just don't ask again. So this file here, actually I'll just zoom this out again. So this is the, oh, sorry, just do that. And I'll just go here. Okay, so this is the specific config you can have on your config for file. Just put it in there. All you just need to do is to say your host and put the name of the host here. Typically, some people just, if you want to deal with all hosts, they can just do a star. This is a general one. Or if you have a specific host, just put the host name here. But then this is just the host. Most people keep the name here and here same. So this is host name. Username, if you want to have it, this is not mandatory. But obviously you can have a predefined authentication and say it's public key, otherwise you'll be asking for password. But preferred authentications, I mean to say, is the public key. Identity file. Now this is the path where that your SSH private key is generated and kept. So this is the path. By default, it goes to here, but for me, you can see I have just prefacing .ho -ho or like _ho. This is the customized one. Then this config here can also be put in here, but in a case where you want to have many, you want to separate it out, because these ones here, these 4 lines, are specific for this server or this server that we're connecting to. Normally I keep them to be the same. I mean, this one has to actually be the address, the actual address of the server you want to connect to. But this one can be anything, but people do keep them same simply because they don't want to forget. So they just like paste the same thing there. But these ones here, these four here are generic. So you can see, so the first one is add key to agent. Yes, this is going to do that. This is like equivalent where you're manually trying to add the key to your something like your bash RC or like ZSHRC identities only. Yes. Preferred authentication, again, you've already said that here. I mean, you can repeat any of these anyway. Compression, yes, if you wanted to compress it. So these are the things you can have. And once all the setup is complete, really, all you need to do really is to test them out. If you want to use verbose, I don't like this. This VVV is verbose, but I just use this to test to see if I can connect. So all you really need to say is to say git add, and then you put the server you want to connect to. In this case, I was trying to connect to a gitlab.com, but this will be the address of this server. So if you go back and then you see this address here, this address is where you want to be connecting to. Simple as that. And that's it, really. That's about SSH for the time being. So let's dive in and just see this in action. Okay, so let's generate SSH key. First of all, for us to go and generate this, I'll just need to show you that I haven't got anything on that directory. So if I do that and press an enter, you see there's actually just nothing on this. This is just an empty file that was empty directory that was created just when I was trying to access something. But we can drop this as well. Once you drop it, this will recreate itself, but you can see there's no other files. There's no other file that is here. In that case, in fact, let's drop it. So I'll just drop this just so we start on a clean slate. So I'll just do .ssh here and remove this directory as well completely. So if I do that and just do this, you see there will be error. There's no such directory. So in that case, now that they are gone, for us to now generate this key, all we need to do is ssh-keygen. So just keygen here. And then I will say -t for that. I will say ed25519. And I'll say -c here, or capital C here. So that C is the comment, as we said. So here, and then this T here is for the type of the type you want to generate. In this one, I'm doing the modern one here. So let's put the comment here. So my email address to connect to some of my servers, it can really be anything, but in this case, it's been, I think I'm just using send idea ltd@gmail.com. So just once I've done that, I just press and enter. You can see that automatically that this is going to generate. This is my username, username /.ssh, and it will generate this. If you're not happy with this location and the name as well, you can change, but I'm fine with that. I press and enter. It will say, okay, directory is created. You can see it wasn't there, it's now created. And then if you want to like double protection, like put extra password on top, just a password that is going to protect your private and public key as well. I mean, it's really not necessary. Some company can actually insist that you do that, but for here, there's really no need. If you do that, still there's no problem with that. But problem is remembering to always put that key is the problem. But for me, I'll simply just say no. Just say no. Ask me the same question again. I'll say no, and it will just generate the key, as you can see. So if I max this out, you can see that the key is now generated, and this is the protocol that is now generated. So let's have a look. I'll just go here and go to this directory. You can see now that the two keys are here. The first one is just this name, id_ed25519, and the second one is the same name .pub. The pub one is the public key. This is the one that you'll be sharing with things like your GitLab, your GitHub, or your remote servers. This is the one that people can actually see. Um, and you need to copy this key now and just go to uh, like where you want to paste it in this case. So we're copying this and pasting it. So what we need to do is to actually just now go and copy this key and put it in. So I'll be showing you because I just need to put a caveat here that the private key isn't meant to be shown. It should be confidential. But the public key is actually public as the name suggests. So in fact, the public key, you can just cut it out and just show that on that and just say ID underscore ED that and do dot pub. You can see that actually. So you can see what the key is about. Copy every single thing in that, as you can see here, and then go to your account and just paste it through. Okay, so now what we need to do is to go on like a GitLab and just so I've got a GitLab here that I created. So I'm just going to go to my account and just open it up. And now I'm going to now go to my profile here and just try and set it up. So here is, I think it's on the preferences, and then I need to go to SSH, and then I need to put the key here, the public key. So just click on this and just the public key here. That's what it is, nothing. Most people do tend to name this key, give it a specific name. So you can just delete this and just put any name. So in this case, I might just say this is a name that you would understand what this is. So I would say account or profile, or like, I'll just say profile. Profile, just give it a specific name that you can understand what it is. This key, you can choose what this key is for. This is for authentication and signing. It can be just for authentication. It can be for signing. For now, I'm just going to leave the two default. In this case here, I'll just you can select the expiration time for this key. So once you hit that benchmark, the key would run out. So for me now, just do like probably say, let's say, you should really make it like something very good, or put it to something close, maybe like a year or 2 years, so that it can always generate a new key. It doesn't take any effort to actually generate a key. So for me, I'll just make it and say 31st of Jan 2028, which is, this is 2025. And once you've done that, you just click add. This is going to be added. In this case, the key is now added. Well, the next thing now we need to do is to, as we said, is to go back here. I'm just going to clear this now. So the next thing we need to do is to actually go and open up or like create. So first thing, let's check if that config file is there. So I just do that. And you can see there's no config file here. It is easy for you to actually do that with config files. So what we're now going to do is to do touch to create it. I'll just do that. I'll say .ssh and I'll say .config like that. Press and enter. If I do ls-la again, you see that I now have config file. This is easiest way of configuring this. There are other ways of doing that, but I'm just showing you this way. So because this is the best way I found of doing that. There is an easy way of doing it though, but that easy way, I don't really bother with that because it's like I think I've shown that on my previous video, but you're going to be like configuring things on your bash RC or your ZSH RC, so that each time that runs you get it, but you can just create this config file. So let's open up this config file. So I'll just use VS Code here. I've got VS Code. You can just open it up with anything you like. I mean, you can open it up with Vim as well. So, but here I'll just do .v and I'll say config here, press and enter. So this is open up. I'll just like zoom this out a little bit. So what we are asked to do here is to specify the name of the server that we want to work with. In this case, what we are working with here is we're going to work with probably, let's say, GitLab as an example. So if we're going to be working with GitLab, so I might just say GitLab, this is just a comment, okay? So the first thing we said we're going to do is to do host here in capital letter, put a host name. So here is gitlab.com again, and then when you go below here, so just one indent, sorry, just one indent here. Yeah, one indent here. So I'm going to say host here. The host here, or host name, I'll do host name, sorry. Host name here would be, that's in GitLab here, gitlab.com. So the next thing we want to say is the user. So here is the username that you use to log on to your thing, because we are customizing this one for GitLab so that it doesn't ask you this all the time. I mean, you can, if you don't want to list out your username for your GitLab account here, it's pretty much fine as well. So you don't have to do that. But when you don't do that, it would prompt you for your username during the connection. So, so for us, let's go back and find out what our username for GitLab is going to be. So I'm going to go back. Our username here is at SendIdea Limited, actually. So I'll just say here, I'll just say SendIdea Ltd here. That's our username. And then the next one, obviously, again, is port 22 if you want to. I really, because by default it's that port. So, but you can list it out, and over in that case, so if you actually say it's say, if you actually say it's port, let's say port 22. Now it can be port, let's say port 822 something. Just in this case, you have overridden port 22 itself, but because it's going to default port 22 anyway, so I don't need to do that. So here I want to have preference, preferred authentication here, authentications. Here I want to use public key here to do that. Now the last one I want to do is the identity file. So where is that file for our private key located? It is located within here. So if you see now, if I do print working direct, actually, so what I need to do is to get into .ssh here. Right, so this is, if I do ls-a here, you see this is where this private one is located. Now, if you want to see the full path, you can do print working directory. It will tell you that this is where it's located. But we all know that this can be replaced with the oblique symbol. So we can just have just this and this prefix together. So what we want to do is to just go back to that file and just type it. So you can see this is the oblique sign, this is the SSH folder, and in this case it's not, it's now ID underscore ED 25519. That's what we saw. This is now seeing the public, the private file. Okay, so that's for that one. And the second one we want to have is okay, so the second one we want to have is to have what we talked about as host again. Obviously, you can do this as many times as possible. So in this case, again, it can be probably you want to do one for GitHub or whatever. If you want to use same key to connect to so many places. So again, so for instance, let's say we have GitHub account. So here I will just say github.com. Okay, so, and then actually instead of typing, why don't I just copy this whole thing here and just put it here. Let's see. So here, just take this out. This is host name now. This will now be github.com. So in this case now we have github.com. Now find the username for GitHub so that each time you're logging on to GitHub, it wouldn't need to ask you for this detail again. And again, as well, it's really good for you to probably like make comment as you made at the top so we know what it is. In this one as well, we can just say this is going to be for, I'll say GitHub, but in this case I'm configuring is where you want to use one key or probably two keys. If it's different key, you change it here. Let's say you have two different key pairs, for one for GitLab, one for GitHub as well, so you can do that and just point them here. But this is customization so that it doesn't ask you what this is about again. Okay, so now that we've done that, just find the username for your GitHub here and just put it here. Find the path for your key. In this case, I'll leave this as is as well, just so that we know. But for now, because I'm not connecting to GitHub, I'll just do, probably let's do like XSS, so I'll remember and come and change it. Right, so now now that you're done with both customization of different things you want to have, the last thing you want to now have is like the generic one. Again, it's still the same, or you can just make that same comment again and say this is now general. So this one applied to both GitHub and GitLab. So in this one, I just want to like, probably doesn't matter anyway, but this is now general, which is common to both. So this is hoster. Within that, you want to tap, and then here you want to say, oh, sorry, capital letter, I want to say add keys to agent. So add keys to agent. Oh, sorry, to capital letter. Just be careful what you're typing. Don't be like me. Add key to agent, yes. And then the next one you want to is use keygen if you want to. I mean, this is only important if you're working on MacBook as well. Most people tend to go and repeat this again, just so it doesn't matter where it's coming from as well. So just have that. Oh, sorry, let's not override that. I'm on MacBook anyway. I can say use keychain and say yes. There are other things you can have that can be common within them. I already specify the path to those ones. So I can have things like, let's say, identities only. So I can say identities only. Oh, sorry, identities only. So let's check the spelling. Identities only. Yeah, that's correct. Here should be yes. And then the last thing I think I want to worry about is compression. So you can just compress the whatever it's doing. So I can say compression here. I can say yes. I mean, these are just enough. I think you can carry on to like specify different things. But again, just to reemphasize, this is customized for GitLab, where we have GitLab. I mean, it has option as well for password, but please don't list out your password in a plain text here. Because as we said, we're not even bothered with password, we're doing key authentication, isn't it? So that's why we have this. Preferred authentication is public key, and then identity file, the key itself is here. So some people, if they have like different keys, will say this, they might just customize this one. They might just say this is GitLab key, and then this one is GitHub key or something. But for me, I'm just using one key, so I just keep it simple. So now that this is done, I actually did a save, as you can see. And then this actually formatted it nicely for me just because of the tool I'm using. I'm using VS Code. If you like it, please just use that. If you don't, it's still fine. Do whatever it is you want to use. This is completely fine. Okay, so moment of truth. Now we've finished with the configuration, is to go and test it out. As we said, the first thing we need to do is to just go and just test it and make sure the connection is secure. So I'm going to be calling out to GitLab. Obviously, if you actually set up the GitHub as well, just to GitHub here is the GitLab that I want to call out to. If I make this call just to test that it is fully set up, it will pretend to connect, but it will contact GitLab, but it wouldn't do any file transfer. If I make this call now, it will ask me to save on my host file just to add that address. It will discover the IP address of gitlab.com and just add it locally. Once you add it locally, it would allow the verification. If you don't add it locally, it would fail. So let's do that. Now it's asking us, it says, hey, I found this GitLab instance that is somewhere in the cloud with this IP address, and I'm going to authenticate, do the handshake. Hey, are you sure you want to continue connecting? Yes, if you type yes, it will pass. If you say no, it would. So let's type no and see how it fails. So I'll say no here, and it just straight away just says host key verification failed. Now, if I do that one more time and just say yes, so you can cache it locally, it would actually just pass. And it's here, I just say warning. This address is now listed to your host file, and it just say, hey, welcome to GitLab at SendID. So it knows who we are, which means it has actually connected. So if we go back and do ls-la, and just inside this directory, you now see that a new file, you can see this is 744. A new file has now been created, meaning that I can now go ahead and start doing git to clone with an SSH or to connect to any other remote resource I want. And as well, if you have GitLab, that's the way you can connect this. This is just one way of doing it, really. People that are actually just in a hurry, there is a option 2. The way they do that is they just go and make sure they have, like, as I said, they just go into their directory and check if there is a .bash file. If they don't have a bash file, they create it. I don't like that method, or they just use that .zshrc. Within that, they just do configuration. They just change it there. So here, I can just do code and just do .zshrc here. Press and enter. Get inside here. Just scroll to any level, wherever. Doesn't matter what these are. So what these people do is simply they just go here and do like configuration to use, they say, eval here, which if you want to do that, that's still an option for you. Eval here, they invoke this SSH agent and create more like a temporary memory where they can add something. And once they've done that, they will just do SSH add, something called SSH add. In the SSH add, because they're on a MacBook, they will do option K. If you're not on a MacBook, don't put this option K. But anyway, they just say option capital K here, and they list out where this private key is as well. So here is, if you're on a MacBook and you don't want to go through option or setting this up, which is easier for you really in the long run. If you're not on a MacBook, you just remove the K here and just leave it this way. This is for, let's say, for instance, I'll just make a comment here. I'll just do start here. I'll say Linux and Windows and bash. So I'll say Linux, or like git bash, using git bash here. Git bash. Sorry, git bash on Windows. And then this one is when you are on a MacBook. Okay, so that's that. But I'm not going to have any of this. I'm just going to take it out because my thing is working anyway. I'll just take this out and just close this out. Settings, got it. So settings, SSH, and then need to add this up. So I need to paste it here. That's it. Just give it a name here. Probably just the name here would be send.idea. That's whatever name, really doesn't matter.